Hey, I'm Oliver, and if you're just finding me, I'm a woodworking artist. I steam bend wood and carve it, but before I can start doing that again, I have to rehab my garage into a woodshop studio. So I've demoed it, I've wired it, I've insulated it, and lastly, I just hung all the drywall. So to finish that up, I just need to mud, tape, and paint it. And then I'll be able to actually start setting up all my shop equipment and get back into sculpting. Welcome to the build.
Alright, my first step before I can start mudding the walls is I'm going to try to get some of the trash and debris and old drywall panels that I didn't need to get them out of the garage. I think I'll just take them downstairs for now.
So right now, I don't think this is probably salvageable for anything useful in the future. So I'm just gonna throw it away. So I'm just breaking up the drywall. And that way I won't just hold on to it forever in my basement. But I'm being sure to save some pieces so I can still hold on to some drywall forever in my basement. Heaven forbid that I need a piece of drywall in the future and have to go buy a whole sheet. So that way I can just hang on to a few sheets of scraps for several years and never use them, and then throw them away once they get mildew on them. That's the plan, at least. Trash services really love when you put building debris in the trash can. I've heard them say that, or construction materials. It's just like their favorite to get to dispose of construction materials. So I'm doing my part, but I do not want to overload this bag. You can see I bought the cheap trash bags, so they're already tearing right there. So that's cool. It's probably as full as that bag can handle. Because the garage is such a mess, I think the best idea for being able to mud the walls will be to just move stuff away from a couple of the walls and focus on those, complete them, and then move the stuff to those walls and then focus on another section. So I think I'll just kind of have to divide it and conquer it to be able to make any progress. I don't think I can work on everything at the same time.
And so because of that, I think I'll focus on this main back wall and this little half wall by the door first.
This table's crazy heavy because it's loaded down with just so many tools or whatever's in this case. I have half of it on a furniture dolly so I can move it, but it's still a pretty big bear. Now it's no longer on the furniture dolly. Didn't help that it was getting caught on some electrical wire, but that's how it goes. If you don't keep a clean shop, you're always running into problems. And it's particularly hard to keep a clean shop when you're trying to do construction. At least it's hard for me. This table is crazy wobbly because it's just the cheap workbench you get from Harbor Freight. It's pretty nice, except that none of the Allen wrench bolts really hold up. So I feel like if I went in and actually screwed it together, then that would probably make it much sturdier and better. Maybe that was my problem. This plastic bag got wrapped around the wheel. Put all the plastic up to try to help with drywall dust when I was doing the ceiling, but it's kind of a Sisyphean task for how long it took me to do everything. Everything still got covered in drywall dust is what I'm trying to say. and hear my cough that my lungs are also getting covered in drywall dust, which is fun. Or insulation dust as I pick up insulation debris. There we go. All right, I can put it back up on the furniture dolly now. It's interesting. Great. I think with cleaning up this dust pile, that'll be enough that I can start mudding and doing the next phase. I think I got enough away from the walls that I can now work without too much impediment. This is the first wall I'll be mudding. The video I watched used a 6-inch blade. This is probably a 10-inch. So already we're starting out with not doing what the tutorial said to do. And then a big issue is I have too much of a gap cut out around the receptacles. And then because the drywall is 5/8 instead of a 1/2 inch, all of this stuff is inset too far back. All these outlets are inset too far back. So those are kind of the big problems I'm having to do beyond just the normal scope of trying to cover the different butt joints. Just press it in real nice, and then get all the excess out on that side, and get all the excess out on this side. On this top one, I struggled where the mud started to dry out on me, and I really should have just done one piece at a time, but with this bottom one being one straight shot, hopefully that won't happen. I do seem to also have better control with the smaller blade. I'm sure if you were good at this, you could do it all with a big one. A lot of these gaps are also so big that I almost feel like I should be pre-filling them and then letting them dry. In the tutorial I watched, he did that on bigger gaps. But I suspect I'll have to do so many coats it won't really even matter. The first time I did this in Connecticut, it was just horrible. I just did such a bad job. I was working in a stairway, and man, I probably made every mistake imaginable, and even some that would be pretty challenging to even come up with to be able to make. So hopefully, after a little bit of experience, I don't make quite as many mistakes. Hopefully. I guess we'll find out once it dries. It's looking okay. There's this thing where you're supposed to just be able to do it in 2 swipes. You could see that section had some broken drywall, and so that'll probably be a problem later on. I have 2 dogs, and I'm getting a lot of their hair in all of this. It's pretty tedious. My next step is gonna be put this corner trim. It is too tall, so I need to measure it, see how much I need to cut off. We are at 107, which should be a good cut. Just use our 10 snips and cut it at the 107 mark. Using this corner bead will be a little bit tricky because I have this handrail right here, which just is kind of getting in the way. So I'm gonna see if I can cut it out, cut a little space out of here for that. Part of the problem also is the wall flares out at the bottom. There's some wood trim down there. It's not too bad. Just a little awkward. I'm just kind of pre-mudding it. Then I'll put the corner bead on. And I was hoping to not have to use any screws, but because of the bend in the wall, I think I'll need to use a few screws. I was hoping just to have it held in place with the mud, because that was what he did in the tutorial. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think tacks are better for this, because they're flatter heads. I could be wrong on that, but either way I don't have any tacks, so this is what I'm gonna do. Now that I got it all screwed in, I'm gonna go through and put a quick coat of mud on top of it. Spread all that out. All right, I got this side done, one coat. So now, I just gotta do the other side. And with getting the first coat done on this small wall section, that's as much as I can do today because my baby woke up from their nap. So I'm gonna go take care of them and hopefully I'll be able to get a couple more hours in tomorrow. Well, I am lucky and Nova went down for a second nap, so I actually have time to do a little bit more work today, so that's exciting. I think what I'm gonna try to do is pre-fill all the gaps in between the drywall. I didn't do that on this wall, but there's a divot here where it was such a big gap that it really just needed to have like layers of drywall mud built up. So that is what I'm gonna do right now, is just flood all those big gaps in my other walls. I have the mud super wet, so this big gap is just kind of globbing all down it. Kind of funny. In the video tutorial I watched, he used a different kind of mud that was really fast setting for this stuff. And that way it also wouldn't shrink and all that. I'm not using that, so I will just deal with the consequences of it. I'm getting a bit of a late start today, but my first step is I'm gonna go around all the outlet receptacles and put mesh tape because they're all cut a little bit too big and deep because of having to use 5/8 instead of 1/2" drywall. All right, it's ready to be patched. Well, I'm kind of just trying to pre-fill some of these areas, not necessarily do like a finish coat, but there's just such a big hollow there that I feel like it needs multiple coats of mud. I also figure it'll shrink and crack, especially because my mud is so wet. These drywall panels aren't perfectly flat. There's quite a bit of where this top piece is above this one. So I'm trying to feather that out a bit in this flood coat. Probably just means I'll have a ton of sanding to do, but that is always the case if you are novice at drywall. Just gonna mud around the drain for my utility sink. Try to go a little quicker because on the last one it definitely started getting dry. done. I think a problem I run into a lot is I try to scrape it really smooth instead of leaving it a little bit high and then just sanding it flat. I think you can scrape it smooth if you're really good at drywall, but I'm not, so it's more effective if I just leave it plus and then sand it flat, which I haven't really been doing, but that's what I should be doing. Alright, I'm about to start another day of drywall mudding, hoping to be able to get a little bit more done today because Marina should be able to watch Nova. My goals are to finish up the first coat of just the butt joints and as well as get as many inside corners as I can on these two walls. You're supposed to crease the paper on these inside corners and then just kind of press it in. Alright, that's a pretty good inside corner. This top edge is so big, I decided to do it in two parts. Hopefully that'll keep the mud from getting too dry as I apply it. Not really sure how to get this smoother. I'm sure I'll be able to sand it out smooth, and if I keep taking it away by skimming it, I think I'll just take too much off. So at my current skill level, I think it's better to leave more on and sand it flat, even though it's a lot of work, versus trying to actually make it smooth by using the blade. Because these two strips are so close, I decided not to do two strips, but just have one whole thing so that hopefully it doesn't look too wavy. With both these seams and the two outlets being here, I figured I should just mud the whole area. The second coat of the mud is finished and it has had a full 36 hours to dry, so now I just need to sand it all flat. I'm hoping because I used that lightweight blue stuff that the sanding will be a lot easier than if I used like harder mud. So far it looks like it is a lot softer. You can see just how well it's smoothing out because I put enough mud on that I'm not going to burn through it, hopefully. So even though I didn't do a great job of smoothing it out with the trowel, I'm able to make it smooth with the sanding. I'm trying to use this tool to get the big ridges knocked down, and then I'm using the sanding block to go back in and do a lot of the more lighter sanding. This tool ended up being a lot better for the rough sanding because I can get my whole arm and shoulder behind it instead of just my elbow. So this is what I actually ended up using to get the big ridges knocked down. The step I'm on now is I'm going to go over and try to dust the walls with this already dirty dust mop, and then vacuum them if they look like they still have dust on them. And then I will make a skim coat and go over places where I burned through and there's like some of the drywall seam paper showing or anything like that, anywhere that looks like it needs just a little bit more mud. For the final skin coat, I added some more water to this. I'm trying to make the mud as thin as I can without it like falling off of my trowel, but that is the goal. My main goal is to cover things. There's a little blemish there and there's lots of little pock marks. So I'm just trying to get those skimmed, and then if I see any like paper burned through, like here, there's still a place where a screw hole was. Yesterday I finished the third skim coat, and so now I just need to briefly run over and sand it flush, and then I should be able to start painting it, or clean up the dust and then paint. And then the shop will be ready for woodworking stuff. So this is really exciting. Let's get into it. finished the mudding, sanding, dusting, and vacuuming. So now I'm gonna paint the walls finally. I'm gonna start with cutting in around the edges and around the outlets, and then I'll get a roller out and start painting the actual walls. Alright, I have finished all the cutting in, and now I'm going to start rollering on the main paint. So that's really exciting. Almost done with getting the garage prepped, and I can set up some of my tools. Hey, I have the first coat of paint down, and so I'm gonna do one more coat, see what it looks like. That might be enough, or I might need to do a quick third coat, and we'll just see. And then once that's done, I'll be able to actually start arranging my tools. So getting really close.
Here's the finished result of this wall. This is what this wall turned out to look like.
I have finished the mudding, sanding, and painting, and so now in the next one I will wire in the table saw as well as the other heavy equipment and arrange all my woodworking tools, and then I can finally get back to sculpting. Catch you then.